Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. It is Monday, the 29th of January, 2024, and welcome to Galactic Whispers, where, ironically enough, I haven't talked about any UFO or star stuff. That will change in the future. I'll do some topics on that. But for today's video, we got some interesting crap. The first one being, is journalism collapsing? So, of course, if you're listening to the podcast version, you won't be able to see it, but you should be able to hear what most of these dingbats are saying. And let me turn that down a smidge, and away we go. All right, let me kill this once. Yeah, there we go. All right.
The entire journalism industry is basically in a free fall. Today, the Los Angeles
Basically
Times laid
in
off
free fall.
115 employees. They wiped out their entire DC bureau in an election year. They laid off pretty much all of their sports teams. They killed their entire tech and business section. They laid off breaking news writers, social media editors. The list goes on. But what's really dark is this is just the latest in months and months and months of layoffs in the media industry.
Welcome to the killing floor, baby. Welcome to the real world, where this has been happening to everyone else under the rainbow, middle class, poor. It's an absolute assault because the economy's taking a fat shit, interest is skyrocketing, the cost of your dollar is getting less and less, and I love how this woman, I'll be civil, thinks that journalists are immune from the economic situation we're in. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, when I'm taking joy in these people losing their jobs, these are the same people who pointed at West Virginia coal miners and said they can learn how to code. There's technology jobs in the United States, okay? So these people have relished in the other people losing jobs and losing their homes and being absolutely proverbially raped by a bad economy. So these people have relished in the absolute downfall of everyone else, and now that the axe has fallen on them, oh, isn't it a sad story indeed?
Industry. In fact, tens of thousands of journalists have been laid off in the past year. Major media companies like BuzzFeed News have completely shuttered their news operations.
BuzzFeed, ladies
Time
and gentlemen.
Magazine also just laid off a ton of people, and Sports Illustrated basically shut down last week. Pretty much the entire digital media ecosystem that myself and a lot of other millennial journalists came up in has been completely hollowed out. And it's not just digital media sites. Local news has been obliterated. The newspaper industry is cratering. Radio is essentially dead aside from NPR, which has been gutted. Meanwhile,
NPR, public radio is still a thing, okay? So she's full of shit there, but NPR is funded by taxpayer money. It's basically state-run radio stations. So when she says NPR's been gutted, that's basically just a loss of more of these statist fucks that parrot what the CIA and big government tell them to.
Hundreds of workers at Condé Nast, the parent company of pretty much every major magazine from GQ to Vogue to The New Yorker.
Vogue, was that the same weird magazine that was encouraging young women and young minors to be involved in heinous sexual acts? I think it was. So again, I'm not going to spill any tears over some of these magazines, and I'm just not. I could care less.
To Vanity Fair are on strike because they're also facing impending layoffs.
Good.
Even mainstream national media outlets owned by billionaires like the Washington Post, where I work, and the Atlantic, where I used to work, have done layoffs. If you're a young journalist today, there's almost no on-ramp to traditional journalism. Even if you do get a job, journalists' salaries have been stagnant and even declined. And by the way, we don't make that much to begin with. I don't think people understand how bad the world would be without journalists.
Not really. I mean, people learn things from word of mouth. No one needs journalists. We're in an age where there's the internet. And what this dipstick fails to realize is you can get all the information you want on the internet. And whether regardless if it's misinformation or not, that's up to the person. And one thing that, and they'll say that that's bad, but you can be misinformed from newspapers, news stories, and big time media corporations just as bad as you could from some dipshit telling you the news on Twitter. So it's just funny how they come off with this holier than thou bullshit. And again, I'm relishing every moment of her belly aching. The suffering is sweet from this ruling class. These people are the parrots of the New World Order, the Illuminati, the Consortium, whatever you want to call it. These are the people who want you persecuted, who want you struggling and suffering, and they too, for the last 20 years, have been relishing in your defeat, your downfall, your pain. These are the same people who profit off of mass shooting stories, terrorism, and war. They make money off of reporting the most heinous shit to keep you depressed. So again, when you see shit like this, do not feel bad. Do not feel sympathy for these people.
And let me just preface this by saying, for people that don't know my background, I did not go to journalism school. I built my own audience on the internet. I came from outside journalism and started as a blogger, and then entered into legacy journalism, a system that I have been incredibly, incredibly critical of pretty much my entire career. So I'm definitely not some mainstream media defender. And I think the rise of citizen journalism on apps like TikTok, Instagram, and elsewhere has overwhelmingly been a positive thing. The journalism industry is overrun with elite, underqualified, rich, entitled Nepo babies, okay? And that part of it is terrible. But that's
and yet you people still work for them, and you still...
Not most journalists. And the majority of journalists losing their jobs in situations like this are the working journalists that are doing these investigations of police brutality, or investigating corporations, or holding power to account, or doing really thoughtful, brilliant cultural commentary.
Bullshit!
I don't want to live in a world where all of the news is delivered through 60-second TikTok videos with retention editing. And I think there's a ton of really talented journalists that are also just not great, like, social media.
As she's doing this video on fucking TikTok with retention editing.
Media people. I think of some of my friends who are journalists who do really deep investigations or local reporting, or sit through hour-long city council meetings to, you know, hold some local politician to account. That's really important work.
You're not holding anyone to account. You're following news stories. You do this, like, sensational avant-garde bullshit because it gets you paid. It gets you views. It gets you metrics. So You're not this holier-than-thou citizen journalist fighting against the machine. You're just independent, like... You're like little remora fish, just eating parasites off the shark. That's what most of these people are. And most of them are political leaning, of course.
Work, and it's work that somebody should pay for, and it's work that's not rewarded by these social media algorithms. I would love if everyone could become independent journalists, but the economics are just not there.
Why does some women have this inflection all the time where it's like a question?
It's really, really hard to amass a subscriber base and then retain that subscriber base over time when you're doing investigative work. And that's if you don't get sued out of existence, by the way.
Yeah, because you should be watching what the fuck you say in the first place, as is the case for some of these journalists. They'll run with the most wild bullshit. It's like with Kiwi Farms, for example. You have people lying and maligning that website with so much bullshit that it'll make your head spin. So yeah, of course, you should be sued if you say something slanderous or wrong. You should lose your pants. You should be sued out of your pants and out of your house because other big corporations, I think Oprah Winfrey owes like a certain amount of millions of dollars to that Kyle Rittenhouse. So with that, I'm glad journalism is on the way out. These are people who profit off of pain. These are people, you know, and same thing with the true crime shit, where they like to champion the victims and give a voice to the voiceless, but in reality, they're profiting off of murder, pain, torture, kidnapping, and shit, too. So when these people come off as this holier-than-thou shit, I really don't buy it, even though she had a good point where she did rail against the establishment a little bit. But again, this is Taylor Lawrence, and she's doing this on fucking Twitter of all places. So the legitimacy is kind of gone out the window there. But in other news, this is kind of funny. And again, for people on the podcast, I'll read what's going on. So we'll play the video first. Let us...
Downtown, walking fast, faces fast, and I'm homebound.
So it's Terry Crews, and it says, PalWorld budget $6.75 million. So that's how much it took for them to produce that game. Whereas on the other side, we are going to see Starfield. which costs $200 million to work. And then it's going to do this funny back and forth with people, the active users. So 2,030,659 24-hour peak for PalWorld.
And I need you.
Starfield, 10,271.
Making my way down.
So that was a funny meme, and of course, what that is about, it is about, PalWorld is this little, I think it's a little indie company. They made their little game of $6,750,000 in USD. I don't know if it's where this game was made. But it's a little game company that, kind of took the idea of Pokemon and world building. And of course, all the Poke fanatics are declaring a jihad. They're ready to strap on that Poke suicide vest, and they're shitting on PalWorld just because it borrows the idea of like just Pokemon and creatures like that you can capture. But in this world, there's nothing really original anymore. And you know what? If they can do it, make it more fun, and where you build things and build like castles and shit and harvest resources, more power to them. If they can improve upon the base idea, I'm all for it. This is capitalism. But it's just funny to see all these Pokemon fanatics come out and just shit all over PalWorld because it dare encroach on their IP. And again, you have this mentality where they're coming out and they're like, so we need to defend this multi-billion dollar company of Nintendo for Nintendo, right? You can hear them whipping out their wakazashis and their swords, and they're ready to storm the PalWorld castle over it. And I find that shit funny. And Nintendo because it's on Nintendo Pokemon, I think, with the Switch. But Nintendo and Pokemon, the trademark or whatever, just because you have the idea of like little pets that you can capture and battling each other doesn't mean you have the absolute idea of it. But moving on, this third one is a doozy. It has to do with everyone's favorite walking pile of demonic shit, and that is Hillary Clinton. So of course, pardon to the podcast people listening, but you'll be able to hear this absolute cretin, and here we go.
Hello, Indivisibles. I'm here to highlight something that is keeping me up at night.
Bullshit, bitch. You own your own fucking McMansion. You have manservants. You have your own personal cook. You have your own Secret Service detachment ready to protect your life at the instance of any hint of danger. If someone even relatively farts in this woman's direction, I am pretty sure the NSA is tapping into it going, ooh, what's this? So when Mrs. Rodham Clinton comes out and says, oh, I'm terrified or scared, she's not, okay? Don't buy this horse shit. This is like the equivalent of a president or Barack Obama or even Michelle Obama in the past when she says she's scared. It's bullshit. It's political rhetoric to try and drum up these fucking fanatics on the left to be like, oh, the leaders are scared, we need to do so, right? They're not scared. It's all bullshit. Don't buy it.
And I know this group really understands what I'm about to say. I know we're all focused on the 2022 midterm elections, and they are incredibly important. But we also have to look ahead, because you know what? Our opponents certainly are. Right-wing extremists already have a plan to literally steal the next presidential election.
Yeehaw! And I'm gonna land myself in a little bit of hot water and a little bit on the radar here. I'm gonna say, let's hope so. And let's return the king to the throne. Let us return our valiant king, our hero, our mentor back to the throne to make these people malt and seethe. Because if it's one thing I love is people like when people like this say they're scared, Michelle Obama or Hillary Rodham Clinton, even if it is bullshit, the idea of them absolutely being terrified of anyone or a political group, just, it warms the cockles in my heart. It really brings me so much joy, the fact that even if it's bullshit, the idea of them being afraid, Ooh, it's so comforting. And I know me saying that's going to land me hot water, but let's see what else this talking pile demonic shit has to say.
And they're not making a secret of it. The right-wing controlled Supreme Court may be poised to rule on giving state legislatures, yes, you heard me that correctly, state legislatures the power to overturn presidential elections.
As they should be. Because it's about states' rights. But it's a little funny how it's an issue when it's right-wing or red states doing it. But when California, New York, or Chicago, and these other, like, Democratic states defy rules and laws by Republican leadership, all of a sudden it's for states' rights. But when it's a Republican, like, government or red state, then all of a sudden it's a coup. It was a vital offense against our democratic republic. Right? They must be stricken down.
Just think, if that happens, the 2024 presidential election could be decided not by the popular vote or even by the anachronistic electoral college, but by state legislatures.
As it should be. Especially with the electoral college. California and New York do not have the right to rule this country as a homogeny just because they have the biggest population centers. Regardless. And of course, this bitch is going on and on and on about the horseshit of democratic rule. But mob rule by a majority still kind of sounds like fucking authoritarianism to me, regardless how much you dress it up and sugarcoat that particular turd. What this does is it gives power back to the states. And if states don't like a certain agenda on the politics on behalf of the president or any other ruling group, they can say, go fuck yourself, eat shit. Because our people voted and don't want it. And that's how it should be, as it should be, by the Constitution, Constitution and the law of God. But I bet me even mentioning God here with this swamp witch, this demonic pile of demon shit, sentient demon shit, is probably tinkling her ears. So let's keep going.
Many of them Republican controlled. But there's also good news in the face of this very real threat to democracy. Indivisible has launched Crush the Coup to make sure.
And you want to know one thing funny? This whole bullshit about Crush the Coup, all this money's going to her. She, like, I'm willing to bet. See, with nonprofits, right? It's like non-taxable or tax-exempt charity shit. But more than likely, when you're giving money to a nonprofit organization, you're essentially just giving money to a politician for airfare and food. None of this money is legitimately going to change or make a difference in Republican like districts. None of this money is going to go towards trying to convince Republicans. Because if she's okay, tell me if this makes any sense. She's talking about right-wing extremists, right? She's talking about the dangers of right-wing extremism, and she legitimately thinks, okay, so if these people are committed to a coup, her words, then theoretically their minds are unchangeable. So you see where I'm going with this. This is just a grift for her to make more money. If she is indeed connected to it, allegedly. But something tells me it's just another political grift. And the right does it too. Mitch McConnell and everyone. So I will be fair here. Both sides do it.
Or we're ready to defend democracy in 2024. They've put together a list of critical races in 6 key states and how you can get involved. Will you support Crush the Coup by donating to indivisible and state legislature candidates? Each of these races is highly competitive, and your dollars could very well decide the winners.
No, it won't. Look, let's put this into perspective, dear listener. Okay, so, yeah, theoretically, in Kentucky, right, most of the state, I'm just using the state in which I reside as an example. Yeah, most of these counties are like crimson red. And if you think throwing money at to have two limp-wristed, two chicken shits walk around, knock on doors, and ask questions, they're going to be laughed out of existence and let's move to the next house. And I'll use Nikki Haley as an example. When there was this big snowstorm, Nikki Haley was like, oh, I'm proud of my volunteers. They were going door to door in the snow, and I even went door to door in the snow. And it's like, oh, congratulations. You dealt with the weather just like every other poor middle-class person. You dealt with the weather like the rest of us. Oh, congratulations. You put up with the fucking snow? Oh no, you walked house to, oh boy. Other people, I think it was there was some state recently where 4 people froze to death during the fucking, like, after the football game. They literally froze to death. Their last moments on this earth were in their house huddled together, trying not to die, and they froze to death. And these assholes are out here making a mockery. So, oh, they walked in the snow? Oh boy, they're doing so much for us. And that's where here I'm going to shit on everyone, okay? Politically. Keep your money. Do not send one fucking dollar to any political organization, right or left. You use that money for yourself. You use that money for gambling. You use that money for securing food for your family. You use that money for buying guns, ammo, gold, silver. You use that money for you. Do not send $1 to these multi-million billionaire dollar plutocrats. You keep that money. It's their job to put up their own money, not your precious money, your own precious blood, sweat, and tears, dear listener. So even if you are a Republican, if you're a Democrat, Libertarian, yeah, sure, they're gonna like pull your ear and say, oh, please donate. If you support us, we can get more. You hold on to that money. They can get fucked. They can go out there, gobble knob, get drilled in the butt for that kind of money if they want to put forward their own money. You keep your money. Invest it, waste it, I don't care, as long as you keep your money and your reward is your own blood, sweat, and tears, not these plutocrats, these politicians, even if it's grassroots, okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, even with these grassroots organizations, your money is yours. Do not squander that for people who are just going to betray you and stab you in the back. And of course, that will end it for this section of the podcast, for the YouTube section. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. Leave a like, share your own comments. Tell me if I'm wrong, right, or maybe I'm unhinged. In the comments below, subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, if you do want to, there's links in the description down below. I do got a grift here, but you don't have to. Again, it's not necessary. I live a comfortable, happy life. But if you do want to support the channel, that would be dope. No problem. But again, if you don't want to, that is just as cool too. Thank you for lending me 23 minutes of your time to watch this or listen. Thank you. You are awesome. God bless you. God keep you. Godspeed. And may you have a healthy and prosperous life. Until next time, thanks again.